This problem says the graph to the right is obtained from the graph of f of x is equal to the absolute value of x, or g of x is equal to the square root of x by applying several transformations. Describe the transformations and give the equation of the graph. So they give us a graph here, and I'm just going to redraw it so that I can draw on it as I'm working the problem. So looks like we're over here, 4 to the left and 2 up, and the graph looks something like that. And so the first thing we have to decide, is it obtained from the absolute value of x or the square root of x? And so those are our parent functions. So is the parent function for this graph the absolute value of x, which is the V-shaped graph? Or is it the square root of x, which is the one that starts at 0, 0 and goes over and up to the right? And so it looks like it's the graph of the square root of x. It's not V-shaped, it's a curve shape. It just looks like it's been reflected and translated, which those are the transformations they're wanting us to describe. So we've seen that our graph is, the parent function is g of x is equal to the square root of x, and we have reflected it and shifted it. So the first it asks about is the reflection. Well, notice it's reflected down across the x-axis. Our original graph looks something like this, and we've reflected it down across the x-axis like this. And so it is reflected across the x-axis. Now remember, when we reflect it across the x-axis, that's obtained by multiplying by a negative on the outside of the function. That'll help us when we're trying to come up with the equation of the graph in a minute. Okay, so we've reflected it across the x-axis. Notice we've also shifted it to the left, and we've shifted it up. So it then asks about horizontal translations. Well, horizontal is a left or right shift. And this one's been shifted to the left. It looks like 4 units, which would put it over here. So it's been shifted 4 units left. And then from there, it also had to be shifted up 2 units, which put it here where we were wanting. And so it was shifted 2 units up. So now we just need to come up with the equation that created that graph. Well, we know it's going to be a variation of the square root of x. The square root of x was our parent function. Now, when we reflect across the x-axis, reflecting is accomplished by multiplying by a negative. And so if we multiply by a negative on the inside of the function, it reflects it across the y-axis. If we multiply on the outside of the function, it reflects it down across the x-axis. And that's what we did here. We reflected across the x-axis, which means we're going to multiply by a negative on the outside of the function. So we're going to have the negative square root of x to accomplish that reflection. Now, when shifting, when horizontally shifting, when shifting left or right, that's going to be accomplished by adding or subtracting a number on the inside of the function, on the x value. And so this time, with a horizontal shift, always with a horizontal shift, it's the opposite of what you think. So going 4 units to the left means we need to add 4. If we were going to the right, we would subtract. But because we're moving to the left this time, we're going to add 4 on the x, on the inside of the function. So underneath the square root, we're going to add 4. And then to accomplish shifting it 2 units up, we add or subtract a number on the outside of the function, on the y values of the function. And it is what you think. So to add, that would shift up, subtract it would shift down. And so this time we're adding 2 on the outside or to the y values. And so since y is equal to this, we can add 2 to the end, and that adds it to the y's, and that would accomplish shifting it up 2 units. And so this should be the equation that produces the given graph. So putting all of this into answering our questions in MyMathLab, the first question is, which one's the parent function? The graph is obtained by applying transformations to the square root of x graph, which is option B. The next question, what reflection is applied? Well, we had to reflect across the x-axis. That's option A. On the next question, we're asked about the horizontal translation. Notice that it gives us the option A, shifting to the left, option B, shifting to the right. We shifted to the left, so we need option A. And we fill in how many units in that box. And in this case, it was 4 units to the left. And then for the vertical translation, that's up or down, we shifted 2 units up. And so option A is units up, option B is units down. So we select option A and we put 2 in the box because we shifted 2 units up. And then the last thing asks for the equation of the graph. And notice it says type an equation using X and Y as the variables. So X is our input variable and we want Y to be the output variable. So it's going to be Y is equal to, and then we have the square root. Oh, sorry, we have the negative of the square root. So negative, and then our square root. The negative flips it over the x-axis. And then we're going to have x plus 4, so that we shift 4 units to the left. And then on the outside, so no longer underneath the square root, so we're going to have to arrow over and then put our plus 2 to shift it 2 units up. And so that should be the equation that gives the graph.